very sudden, slow poison. Expiration is life, the reparation is suicide. Saturn fourth house is a woman who generally is found to be conservative as far as her sense of dressing is concerned. Generally, you will find them very conservative, not much revealing dresses. As Saturn, when it is in the very center of the first chart, the typical modern view of dressing is something that the native is not comfortable with. Even when they wear a modern dress, they are much on the conservative side and not very open and revealing. It is difficult to find a girl or woman who has a Saturn core and she has come out openly and expressed herself, her emotions, her feelings to a man whom she loves. In general, otherwise also, woman never proposes a man. That is okay. Not proposing is one thing, but the same woman actually gives some signals to the man whom she loves, so that the man gets the message, so that the man himself takes the lead and proposes her. And that is what happens around the world. The woman never is the first to propose. She keeps quiet. She waits. She waits. And she waits. And she goes on waiting until one fine day the man himself comes and opens his heart out to her. Says those four magic words, will you marry me? This proposal, this happening of two lovers coming together and getting married is possible only when a woman gives some signal, when the woman expresses her feeling, her longing, her love to the man she loves. But Saturn for woman never says anything. They are so good at repressing their feelings that a man who is in love or who wants to marry should be smart enough to understand her feelings and step ahead to propose. You can say that it is an IQ test for lovers who fell in love with Saturn for woman. Saturn for man is also not expressive, and so the woman had to take special effort to make him speak. In fact, waiting for the Saturn for man to propose is in itself a great test of patience for her, because this man is so slow and so unexpressive that he simply never speaks his heart out. It is indeed a challenge for the woman who is in love with a Saturn for man. There was a man who was on his spiritual path. But love can happen, and I say this to all my fellow followers and listeners. Love can happen anytime to anyone. And so, this man fell in love, and the woman with whom he fell in love also was in love with him. So it was not just a one-way traffic, it was two-way. But now, the big question arises. Who is going to propose? The woman waited. The man definitely would not show courage to even speak his heart out. In fact, he had not even touched her, but was just in love with her. And then one day, the woman decided to ask. She goes to the man and says, Rishi, I love you. Will you marry me? Now, Rishi, that was his name, was in a big delay. He was also in love. He also loved her, but he never imagined that the woman he loved would propose to him after. Now, what to do? Because he was on the path of self realization, and now he thought that his love, this bonding, this relationship will become a hurdle to his spiritual path. And this is what many people think. And this is how they all go on missing life. They go on missing love. And then they think that by rejecting love, by rejecting relations, they can attain to the state of self-realization. In reality, love strengthens your path towards self-realization and not otherwise. The master says, anybody who says that love is a hindrance on the path of self-realization is not a breach. When love is there, there is no sexuality. Sex is ugly only when there is no love, but just animal lust. And so, a Saturn core person should never repress their feelings. That is the most important takeaway for Saturn core natives to take from this show. Depending on the quality of Saturn, that is past current, the job of the native is. Generally, with this placement, freshers who have Saturn core find it difficult to get a job. Even after getting a job, they always feel burdened. Saturn in the fourth house always makes the person feel burdened. Burden of old parents, burden of work, burden of getting those certifications, and also burden of friends. This Saturn core person, a repressed person, often feels burden. You will never see them smiling, as they always have some burden to be lifted and carried on along in their life. Yes, it is a tragic blessing, tragedy. Now, those can be love tragedy. When you don't exist, it is obvious that a man or woman you love secretly will walk away with someone. Or those can be tragedies at the workplace, again the same thing, not expressing. And so they often are exploited at the workplace. But tragedy is a word that is always found in the dictionary of Saturn core individuals. Tragedy is something that anyhow happens. If you get what you want, still tragedy happens. Else, you may not have seen so many divorces happening all around. Especially divorces in love marriages. The man wanted to marry a woman. He fell in love. Finally, he proposed. He got the woman. Now what? He got her. But then, still what happened? Divorce. So even if you get what you want, tragedy happens. And if you don't get what you want, then also there is a tragedy. That is why the master says, in this world there are only two tragedies. One is not getting what one wants, and the other is getting it. But getting what you want and then losing it is a better tragedy than not getting at all. So Saturn folks should try to get what they want by expressing themselves to the full. Society is always trying to suppress you. Don't say this, don't write this, don't share this, because the society is filled with more shallow people. They are afraid, they are insecure, and so such a society of power and shallowness goes on dictating to suppress, and that is how this society has killed many beautiful men and women just by forcing separation of them. Why does a man separate so much and become unhealthy? Because the society teaches you to control, not to transform. In controlling, you deprave, and in transformation, you expand. When you want to transform, when you want to change the quality of your life, you should focus on expressing your feelings. Only a man who expresses himself, only a woman who expresses looks beautiful, real beauty. Nelson Mandela quotes, live life as though nobody is watching and express yourself as though everyone is listening. Excellent. You live in the two realms only when you express yourself. Until then, you just exist. Saturn in the fourth house, when it falls in between 6 degrees to 20 degrees, it gives many positives.